Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by Cinematic Visions, and another edition of Danny and Tim's Music Scene with Tim Finn from In Kansas City Magazine, longtime Kansas City music writer and critic. You can also hear him on 90.9 The Bridge as well, and he is just a font of information and always an enjoyable conversation for me. I look forward to all the every other Wednesdays, as I so awkwardly often put it, and today we've got topics far and wide, again, starting with the Academy Awards and how we weave that into some musical topics as well. As usual, Tim these days has a couple of documentaries, including one about Frank Zappa. I've got some little bite-sized snippets of music conversation that you can access, and I'll tell you how to do that. Those, in this particular case, involve David Crosby and Pete Townsend. Also look into the man who was the musical director of the Academy Awards, QuestLove, and he's got a new documentary that he's backing and producing that's coming out this summer that looks like a great find as well. We'll talk about how streaming concerts that obviously developed during the pandemic are probably here to stay, not replacing live concerts, but being another avenue or part of the musical menu for you. We've got all kinds of things to talk about, as usual, as we're all over the map and all over a fun map. And it's with Tim Finn, and it's coming up next on Danny and Tim's Music Scene. It's part of our Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday rotation, always sponsored by Cinematic Visions right here at the Reasonably Irreverent Podcast.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Visions' goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. I'm here with David Schmidt from Private Capital. And David, tell us more about your outstanding firm.
Thanks, Danny. Here at Private Capital, we focus on return on asset. In today's world, it is survival of the fittest. We look at things from all angles and try to figure out what works best for you. The changes we will see this next year on assets will be monumental. The key to success is knowledge. Know where you want to go, and we'll be here along the way. To find out more, give us a call at 816-221-7775.
David Schmidt from Private Capital with the best service for you. We're here with Michael Barber, the CEO and founder of Microlight Corporation of America, the world leaders in laser therapy. And Michael, tell us a little bit about your product.
Our device is using a particular wavelength and power to reduce pain and swelling. My background is surgical lasers, but I've been involved with this particular device now for about the last 20 years, actually.
And I know that it works because I've had it used on me as well. And tell us about the relationship you have with your company and Canaway.
It's what I call a strategic business relationship in that Canaway, the leader in the field of the cannabinoid systems and CBD oil, but our device used in conjunction with Canaway CBD oil gives a better pain relief outcome for the patient.
And if you want to get that pain relief outcome like I did, you can reach their local representative, Sherry McCants, at 515-208-6312. That's 515-208-6312. The bitter cold snap in February was just another intense reminder of how important it is to have a quality heating and cooling company on your side. That's why you need to know about my friends at Dillon's Heating and Cooling. Jeff Dillon and his top quality staff provide honest, affordable, and reliable service all year long. Their number one priority is taking care of the customer and focus on being genuine, always following through and standing behind what they say and do. If you need HVAC or AC repair, it's important you get help from a team of professionals. Dillon's Heating and Cooling's team team can walk you through a range of products, the advantages of heating and cooling systems, and ultimately help you find the best HVAC system for you. They're always glad to answer your questions and set up an appointment for an installation consultation. Whether you're looking to upgrade to a newer model of your current system or need one installed in a new home, give my friends at Dillon's Heating and Cooling a call today at 913-214-0529. That's 913-214-0529, or visit dillonsheatingandcooling.com to answer all of your questions. Dillon's Heating and Cooling. Their slogan is their goal, always treating you like family. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Every other Wednesday, we get to visit with Tim Finn, and it's always a pleasure, and we always find new and unique things to talk about in the world of music, as the musical world certainly has changed over the last year plus. It will continue to be changed by what we saw, and that's a topic we're going to visit a little bit later on. But, Tim, first of all, I hope you are well. We both now have had our shots, and we're feeling a little upbeat about that aspect of life. The Academy Awards, which usually is really a destination night for me and my wife, and we're dedicated cinephiles, and it was really kind of a dry show. The speeches were actually very compelling and good, but the production value obviously wasn't there. A little bit of the glamour was back, but in the end, from a musical standpoint, I kept thinking to myself, thank God QuestLove is there to bring us back from the spots, because he's good and he's putting a little life into this thing. And, the movie I wanted to win Best Picture did. And so there was a lot of reasons for me to watch it, but there was a lot missing there. And I know that in the end, somebody like you, who I think is probably dedicated to watching it, it didn't last either.
Yeah, it felt slow, kind of dry, and there was this somberness to it that I couldn't figure out. I mean, it was. I understand the situation we're in, and we have been for the last year plus, and but I think there's reasons for some optimism and exuberance, and this felt like it was following a kind of a somber event, or like we wanted to keep the mood down a little bit, and so it was hard to generate a lot of excitement. I did think the speeches were really good, the ones that I saw, but it felt like I just kept waiting for it to take off, and after a while, I just decided I'll just follow it on my phone and read about it later, because I was having trouble paying attention and not feeling like I wish this thing would get going a little more.
I absolutely agree with that. I think they needed a little bit more in between. It seemed like a calculated thing, like, well, this year it is not going to be that highly watched anyway. We can't do big production numbers. It probably isn't in keeping with what we want to present as an idea, that we're going to yuck it up that much. And so let's just do it this way and stick to it. And like I said, QuestLove was the musical director, the Roots drummer, obviously, and he's a cool guy, and that leads me into the musical reason that I started with the Academy Awards. He is behind a documentary about the 1969 Harlem Cultural Festival, a concert that was filmed with the likes of Stevie Wonder, Nina Simone, Sly and the Family Stone, Gladys Knight and the Pips, Mahalia Jackson, B.B. King, and it was a big deal. It was sort of at the same time as Woodstock, but they filmed it, and the film's never been released, and it's called Summer of Soul, and I watched the trailer of it today, and I'm telling you what, this looks like it's going to be a cool thing, and it's just a cool thing to revisit, and he's a great we talked about this, I think, in the last time, people of a new generation being advocates for people being involved with the music of the past.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what a time that was. We've talked about that era many times here, but that what the 60s and early 70s meant to the history of all popular music. And he's the guy to do it for sure. He's something of a historian, kind of like Dave Grohl. They respect their elders deeply, and they respect what preceded them, and they're very much enthusiastic about going back and not only learning it, but kind of preaching about it too. So that's I'd only heard of it. Is that going to be streamed or theaters or both?
I think it's going to be it was at the Sundance Film Festival, and it won.
Okay.
And the trailer did debut during the Academy Awards. It says theaters and on Hulu in July.
Okay.
So both.
Okay,
and maybe by then people will actually be doing theaters a little bit more. We talked about that off the air, but I think that's going to be affected. There was one moment, I think it was pretty early on, so you may still have been watching, when the host said, and coming up next, we're going to have the trailer for Steven Spielberg's version of West Side Story. And right when the words came out of her mouth, I turned to my wife and I said, that sounds like a bad idea. I knew he'd done it, and they're holding it back, and they're holding it back. And I said, that sounds like a bad idea. And then they showed the trailer, and we both looked at each other and said, well, maybe not. I mean, the trailer was pretty damn impressive. I'm not usually not. I don't often understand why iconic films get remade, because I'm like, go watch the old one. It's fine. I mean, it was a classic for a reason, but it looks like a faithful, and it looks like a pretty cool thing of a fantastic musical with fantastic songs.
Right. I did see that trailer, and my reaction at first was the same as yours, until I saw that they were not going to make it contemporary. It wasn't going to take place now. They were keeping it true to its era, and at least that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah.
And I think I saw Rita Moreno in one of the things. So
yes,
she's coming back into it. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go see that, or I'll watch it for sure. The music is extraordinary. I love it. So yeah, I think this may be one of those occasions where the movie, the remake itself, pays homage to the original. It looks kind of like maybe there's an element of that to it.
There does. And if that's the case, and you have new performers and a new audience that probably won't do what I said, which is go back and watch the original one, we'll get exposed to a fantastic story, no question about that.
I've been watching a lot of old movies lately, and what I've noticed is a lot of them could be tightened up by at least 20 minutes, and maybe that's what will happen here a little bit. I don't know how long the original is, but like I watched The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. It was on, and I had never seen it, and boy, there are some slow-moving moments in that movie. God, this 2-hour and 12-minute movie could have been a real classic, more of a classic, an hour and 40 minutes. But attention spans were different back then.
This is another thing about where our world is these days. In not our world, but what happens when. So I watched the trailer for the getting back to that, of Summer of Soul, and I also watched the trailer again for Spielberg's West Side Story. And then immediately something else comes on. I was watching it on Rolling Stone's website, and the thing that came on was this little piece they do, I guess, on a regular basis called Ask Croz, and it's a 5-minute video where people send in questions to David Crosby about just about anything, and he answers them. And he answers them, and it was quite entertaining, to be honest. I watched the whole thing. It was only 5 minutes, and he actually sounded reasonable, which sometimes he isn't. So that was interesting. And then it rolled. The next thing came up, and it was like, oh, this is it was called The First Time with, and they do it with a series of people, but I only watched this one because I said to myself, okay, I got a lot of work to do today. I'm not going to get sucked into this rabbit hole. But the one with Pete Townsend, it was a 10-minute piece. And it was the first time he saw the Beatles, the first time he saw Jimi Hendrix. It was really fascinating, and it just shows the kind of, bite-sized things that are fun to consume sometimes.
Right. I can see Pete Townsend being worth listening to at any length. He's pretty thoughtful. He doesn't hold back. He can be really candid. So I would be interested in what he has to say pretty much about anything. I remember once he did an interview in Rolling Stone, he said, the Beatles have much to do with rock and roll as ABBA, which was a really provocative thing to say, but then he was basically saying their influence spreads far beyond just rock and roll. They weren't really a rock band. They were something transcendent to that. But, he did come out and say that, which was like something back when he said it was sacrilege. So he interests me a lot. I know David Crosby can just be wacko, outlandish. So, I would be I would be terrible about anything I picked up to read about or look.
Yeah, I would highly recommend the First Time series. You can people can just I'm sure type that in, the First Time with Pete Townsend, and he does tell a Beatles story. The first time he saw the Beatles, he said, when I first saw them and first heard them, I wasn't impressed, and he said they were a pop band, and they weren't what I wanted to be. And then he said when I think it was Paperback Writer, and what was there on the other side of that? I can't remember. But two great songs, and he said, "Then I
Rain."
knew." No, it wasn't Rain. It was a hard rocking one, but I should have written it down. Anyway, the flip side of Paperback Writer. Just look it up that way. I'll think about it when we're 15 minutes down the road. Anyway, and then the other question that was kind of a fun one was, he said, "What was the first time you thought you wanted to leave the Who?" And he said, every day from the day we started.
Right.
From the day we started, because I was from art school. The other guys in the band really were interested in get money and girls, and I kind of wanted this thing to go away so that I could go back to art school.
Right.
And he was so candid about it. I have his autobiography. It's quite good, actually. And he is an interesting, but he's a no holds barred type of guy, no question.
Does not suffer fools at all.
No, absolutely not. And so a lot of interesting things there. And then one more from me before we take a time out, and we'll get to a couple of things that you're really interested in and brought up before we went on the air. Jim Steinman passed away this past week. I think a lot of times on this show, people who pass away give us topics to talk about. And, of course, he was the person behind Bat Out of Hell with Meat Loaf, and then, of course, went on to do all kinds of big or elaborate power ballad type of stuff with Celine Dion and Bonnie Tyler. I guess I thought Bat Out of Hell was quite good, but maybe his other stuff I wasn't my cup of tea, but he certainly is an incredibly influential songwriter through the years.
Yeah, he was. I mean, for a while, he's one of those guys that nobody really even tried to pick up and do what he was doing, because it would have seemed smaller, weaker, and more shallow or something, because he was a brand for sure. And the Bat Out of Hell record was just like that. It was like this thing out of nowhere. And because I remember when that came out, and it was all over the radio, and the songs were long, and they told stories, and just the way they were written and produced, it was theater. It was like very, very theatrical, and it was big and orchestral, and it was like, Phil Spector times 10 almost. So it was he was one of a kind, and he did stuff for other artists that made big splashes, Bonnie Tyler being probably the most, but that Meat Loaf record was one of a kind, and I still like it, as overdone as it is, because it's overdone, and because it was it reminded me when I first hearing Bohemian Rhapsody on the radio. Like, wait, what? Where is this coming from? And I really appreciate the risk he took, and how he just sort of ignored any trends or fads or fashions back then musically, and just wrote and produced these really long, kind of provocative storytelling songs, and made them as big as possible.
And the producer was Todd Rundgren, and Rick Derringer played a lot of guitar on that too, along with Todd Rundgren. So that's certainly a meaty cast, as it were. And you're right; it was the type of thing that really could be thought of as too kitschy for some people, and it was its own entity, but the songs were certainly, his background was musical theater, and that's very very obvious in what he did. So Jim Steinman passed away this particular week. Tim has some recommendations for you, and we've got some more things to talk about as far as the musical scene is concerned. We'll do that coming up next, right here on Danny and Tim's Music Scene. It's part of Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, always presented by Cinematic Visions. That's a great company, and one of our great sponsors right here at DannyClinkscale.com and the Reasonably Irreverent Podcast.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing, and boy, we had to negotiate a million things in 2020, but Easton Roofing navigated them all. As 2021 rolls out, what should we expect this coming storm season?
Well, Danny, it'll be the same thing as it is every year. The storms come, and you've got the guys out knocking on doors offering quote-unquote free inspections. Be wary as a homeowner. If somebody's knocking on your door, they probably need the work, and if they need the work that bad, they may be willing to do something untoward to get it. So if somebody knocks on your door, says they want to give you a free inspection, just tell them have a great day and give us a call. We'll come out for free and give you a good, honest opinion as to whether or not you need to do anything at all with your roof.
And what's the best way to get in touch with Easton Roofing?
You can always find us online at eastonroofing.com or give us a call at 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
Right now, it's more important than ever to support local businesses. And 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence is open and ready to take care of you. Make 23rd Street Brewery part of your KU game day experience, whether you watch the game there or grab curbside pickup for your tailgates or watch parties.
But not just game days. 23rd Street Brewery is great any day of the week, and when the weather's nice, you can take advantage of their heaters on the patio. 23rd Street Brewery is open daily from 11:30 to 9 for dine-in, carry-out, curbside pickup, and can even help with your catering needs.
So support local and visit a Lawrence favorite, 23rd Street Brewery.
We're here once again with Dr. Brad Woodle from Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. Springtime, good weather's finally here. People want to stay active, and it's your job to make sure that they can stay active, and be healthy.
Danny, we see a lot of not just weekend warriors, but people that every day are having that want to get back to activity. Whether you're starting with walking, jogging, or maybe that first 5K of the year, we want to help you out. We specialize in taking care of all ages, from kids all the way to grandmas and grandpas, but absolutely specialize in getting you back to full function and keeping you in great shape.
So in short, how do we go about doing that?
The first thing is to schedule a consultation with one of our doctors and therapists so we can see how you move and how you're supposed to move. Based on our assessment, we can put together a short treatment plan and a set of goals to help you both feel better, function better, and most importantly, stay better for this year and many years to come.
Learn more at asfca.com/Danny. That's asfca.com/Danny. Most of us have experienced auto accidents, and it's no fun. And even less fun is trying to work on the insurance aspects afterwards and getting full value after an auto accident. I'm here with David Cowan from wreckexpert.com. And David, you have an unusual and important niche for people after an auto accident.
We have a passion to teach car wreck clients what they deserve. Getting your car repaired only fixes the damage and the paint. Getting paid for your car's loss in value is called diminished value. Chances are you've never heard of this before because most people aren't looking out for you. We help people collect thousands to tens of thousands of dollars for their car's loss in value after the wreck.
And if somebody wants to come to you for that, what's the original assessment cost them?
We offer a free review of any insurance claim to see how we can help.
You can't beat that. Great expertise and assistance in getting full value after an auto accident from David Cowan. Visit wreckexpert.com and learn more.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Welcome back. We're visiting with Tim. We do so every other Wednesday, and it's always a treat. And Tim, you've obviously, one thing we get to do here, back in the day, we would recommend shows that were coming up and preview them and review them, and we're getting there, but we're not there yet. And so one thing we like to do is point people in the direction of some interesting documentary content, and you have a couple of things in that arena and a great story that a friend of yours wrote too.
Right. So the documentary I watched, it's just called Zappa. It's on Hulu. It was released in late 2020. So it's relatively new, and he had a lot of the content he provided. There's a lot of home movies, even going back to his childhood, and his brother and sister and his parents are in them. It really gets into how he was raised. One of the he ended up in Arizona because he was severely asthmatic, and his parents were worried about him, so they took him where the air was kinder, and he ended up in a little town out there. And just these little, episodic moments in his life. You start off like he admits that by the time he was 6 years old, he learned how to make gunpowder because, of course, Frank Zappa was not going to just play with trucks or trains when he was 6 years old. He's gonna figure out how to make his own gunpowder. And then at some point, when he was in junior high or high school, he improvised this device that he wanted to use to set the school on fire. And then, but all the while he heard this record. I wish I could remember the guy's name, but it's Edgar or something. I think if you Google Zappa and Edgar, it will come right up. But it was this really weird, dark, haunting music that he just fell in love with. It was very dissonant, and nobody was playing it anywhere on radio because it was too weird, but he couldn't understand why nobody else liked it. And it became very, like a really formative beginning for him. And that's kind of where his music foundation began. And he just decided he loved music, taught himself how to compose, and, yada, yada. He ended up being one of the most, I don't even know how to describe him. You come away from this documentary with two feelings. He was kind of he was very insulated. He was cold, you could say. I called him like barely lukewarm hearted, He was so involved in the music ideas that were gushing through his brain, and so busy trying to get them on paper and then get them recorded and performed live, at the expense of relationships. And, he married and had a family, but he wasn't home a lot. Maybe when he was home a lot, he wasn't there. He was off somewhere working on music. The story I hadn't heard was, the song Valley Girl, which became one of his hits. It was actually a really, really popular song back in the late 70s. It happened when his daughter, Moon, slipped a note under his door in the studio and said, "Hey, Dad, it would be nice to see you," was asking for his company. So he did what, of course, he would do, is blended the two. Come on in, let's make a song. That's how we can spend time together. And and he wasn't a great spouse, and he admitted he wasn't, and he sort of said, "My wife knows what happens when I go on the road." And but what sustains through all this is how brilliant he was, how energized he was by these ideas, and how hard he worked to get them out, and how he influenced this just dozens and dozens and dozens of basically virtuosic musicians who fell under his spell. And one of them was this woman who became a permanent part of the Mothers of Invention. She was a student at Juilliard. She heard the Mothers at a show in New York and just said, I can't do what I'm studying. That no longer interests me. And she became like just captive to him and his music. And Steve Vai was the same way. He was one of the guys who talks through it several times. And when Frank Zappa died, they were all just absolutely crushed, and basically said he was really, really hard to work with. He was kind of thankless. He rarely, if ever, thanked you or said you did a great job. But man, he changed my life. He changed everything about me, and it was really tragic when he died, because he died young. He was 52, and at a time when what he died of could have been prevented. So it's kind of a long ride. Like I told you, it's very dense and it's intense, but I feel like I know him way better now after having watched that.
That sounds super interesting to me, and we're going to get into an article that you wrote, but it just made me think this is a completely different thing. Absolutely, but I was reading an article in The Guardian the other day. I get that in my inbox. I don't know how that started to happen, and weekly they do a thing called Sleeve Notes, and they did a review of Tom Jones' new album, which is called, and that Tom Jones, What's New, Pussycat, etc. Surrounded by Time, it's called. And the article goes into the fact that, his image is set. He goes out and tours, and, older women want to throw panties on the stage and all that stuff, and that's what they talk about. But when he records music now, he works with, Art of Noise, Jack White, all these different people, and I guess he's really become somebody who people in the music industry really respect, when most people will just think of him as some guy from the 60s who sang James Bond songs.
Right, and sang these libidinous,
right,
pop songs. I saw him it was probably longer ago than I think right now, so I won't guess the year, but it was, within the last 8 years, I think. He was at the Uptown, and he's sort of he's one of those people. I mean, Johnny Cash is one who, another generation discovered him and appreciated him and brought his old music into light and had him record new music, and was really respected because Jones had a really good voice. He was really expressive and soulful. He could be, but he became kind of a caricature-ish, and I watched him on TV all the time, and you kind of, I love his music on the radio, but you were kind of laughing with him when he was on TV, and I'm not sure what, probably too young to appreciate what we were laughing about, but he was, he was not, Andy Williams or Perry Como. He was something different, and you knew that, and it's good to see him because if you go back and revisit his music, it's really well done, and he was a really good performer. And I know when I saw him, his wife of many, many years, talking about a wife putting up with infidelity. And she had died, and he got really choked up talking about her. Like he it was really heartfelt what he said about her, and it made him more humane. Like you realize, well, there was a person behind that, all that, persona and that shtick. So I really respect him, and I heard about the new record. I haven't listened to it yet, but I will sometime today or this week.
Yeah, he is an interesting character as well, and I did recommend that. I think the last one or two times we did that, if anybody wants to subscribe to The Guardian, they have a great have a great music section and music feature every single week that has really like a dozen really good articles, and they do classical music and everything else, but it's pretty amazing. You wanted to talk about a story that came out a little bit ago about streaming concerts that we've all been through and things like that. That was in USA Today, but it looks like just because clubs and venues will reopen, that those things are going to be something that was maybe a creation of the time that's going to hang around.
Right, and this isn't the first time something like this has happened. I can't think offhand of another instance, but necessity, the mother of invention. We adapt to something, and as something as a temporary solution to what's missing or what's broken, and then when what's gone comes back, you're like, well, I kind of also like what we were doing in the meantime. It's been refined and perfected, and maybe we'll do both as we go forward. And that's kind of what's happening here. So this article ran in USA Today, April 10th, and the reporter is Mike Snyder, who's I've been buddies with for 35 years now. We go way back into college, and he writes a lot about technology and entertainment, and he did a pretty extensive look at what's happened over the last year or so, and the numbers, I'm trying to find them, here they are. So this there's a online music hub called Bands in Town, all one word, and they did a survey, and they said, according to them, since March of 2020, more than 22,000 artists have performed, almost 80,000 concert live streams, and they did a survey, and more than half of the surveyed 6,000 fans and 1,000 artists, and more than 55% of the fans said they will keep streaming live concerts after in-person shows return. And artists said, 85% said they plan to keep offering them as some part of their schedules, even as they go back on the road. And one of these outlets is offering a subscription up, $9.99. You can get, a month. You can get, access to all of their shows, and of course, they're all doing the VIP thing that may lead to you have their own little remote online meet and greet interview with the artists. So, of course, once they figure out a way to make money with this, companies and artists are going to run with it. So I think it's great because, as one person said, when I watched Brandi Carlile's Christmas, I felt like I was in her living room with her, it was that intimate. The sound was good. Transmission was good. And, you weren't dealing with crowds, sort of the movie thing again, I can't see giving up live shows completely. But if the circumstances are good, or if it's a band that's not coming here, or an artist that's not coming here, and I have a chance to watch them otherwise, on my couch, sure, I'll pay whatever it is if it's, reasonable.
And usually it is reasonable. I mean, maybe that's another thing that where maybe another reason for it is that now certainly you go to club shows, but if it's a major artist, and that artist can, in one shot sell, 85,000 streams, they can do it for $19.99 or $24.99 instead of you paying $109 to go to a concert.
Right. And, I was thinking about this because we all love and admire our buddy Frank Hicks over at Knuckleheads, but he was doing that before the pandemic. You could he was live streaming shows, and then once they sort of got that right, they were offering access to it, So that's not a brand new idea, but I think it's probably more popular now and more acceptable now. And I don't know why you wouldn't if the overhead probably ought to be pretty minimal and the rewards could be really substantial.
Yeah, and I as long as if they make the quality the way it is, people will go back. The Mavericks one that my wife and I streamed on Valentine's Day, around her birthday actually, was really well done. And it wasn't just it wasn't live. It was, and there was a lot of production value, and so that was it was a good advertisement for that type of thing. Am I still going to go see the Mavericks live? Yes, I am on May 15th, but. It is a good It is a good either alternative or addendum to your music entertainment.
Right. I think by now we're all accustomed to, whether it's a Saturday Night Live or the late night talk show, hearing there being the absence of an audience response, whether it's nobody's laughing at Colbert or there are few, if any, laughs at the Saturday Night Live skits or whatever it is. So if you're watching a band live and there's not a crowd cheering after each song, I think we're used to it, and it's not an impediment anymore. It's part of the environment. Yeah. Move on to the next song. We're good.
That being said, now that we're both vaccinated and everything and the world is headed in that direction, I always try to get a pulse check of live music from you, where you think we're at.
Oh, it's definitely coming back slowly. I don't know. I mean, maybe you saw this on social media. This is another of our favorite bands. Summer Breeze is going to do a show Sunday after Mother's Day, May 16th, back up in the Weston Crown Center, 4th floor. What's also happening is that mask mandates are loosening. I know here in Johnson County, their commissioners are going to reconsider their mandate. It looks like, especially outdoors, rules will be less restrictive, maybe more people. For a while, wherever I go, I'm taking my mask with me. I'll have it around my neck. If I don't need it on, I won't. But so it looks like there will be the environment is changing, and that it's going to make bands and promoters, at least local bands, more willing to go out and feel like there's going to be a decent enough crowd. It's outside. It's safe enough. Let's give it a shot. So I know there's going to be more live music opportunities. As far as the big tours, it takes a lot to get those organized and off the ground, so I'm not sure. Although, what we now call, or what we used to call Sandstone, has announced a show in June. It's Styx and Collective Soul out at Sandstone, or it's another name. Anyway, speaking of that, this was funny. I noticed last night, Facebook has gone in, and every one of my old memories, like if I was at a show at the Sprint Center 6 years ago, it now says T-Mobile Center. So it told me that 6 years ago I was at the T-Mobile Center to see a show, and I was like, wait a minute.
Nope, you weren't.
That's not what it was called back then. But history rewrites itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tim, always a pleasure. I cherish getting together every couple of weeks, and look forward to doing it again real soon.
Okay, see you then, Dave.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
Cinematic Visions, an affordable and award-winning solution for professional media production since 2003.